Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om. Om Shanti, Om. Peace inside my mind. Peace inside my mind. God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind. God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my mind. God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind. God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om Shanti. Om. Peace inside my heart. Inside my heart. God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart. God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my heart. God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart. God and only God I live to see. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Peace inside the earth. Oh, peace inside the earth. God and only God is moving me. Peace inside the earth. God and only God I live to see. Peace inside the earth. God and only God is moving me. Yeah. Peace inside the earth. God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti. Om. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Peace in my mind. Peace in this earth. Peace in my heart. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Peace inside this world. Peace for all people. Peace inside my mind. Peace inside this place, this holy place, this holy place. Peace, peace, peace. Shalom, salam. Peace, peace, Please pray with me. Take a deep breath and just know that we are here together. As the song says, we are all one. We are all one together with God. God is within us and surrounds us. And that one Spirit, that one beautiful, beautiful Spirit is with us always, surrounds us always. Feel that love, that unconditional love. Feel it's just wrap around you like a warm blanket. Know that that love is there always. Even when we choose not to believe it or not to see it, it is there. That beautiful love. So as we experience that love of God for us, we know that each and every person has that same love within them. So as we give that love out, that love spreads. And more people experience it and send it out. And that's what we're here to do, to send out that love, to know that that makes the world a better place. And we can do our little part to do that. So as we come together today in community, we are so very blessed to have all these wonderful people in this community to come to each and every week. And we are just blessed to have our practitioners, our technical team, our musicians, our ushers, all the volunteers that help put this Sunday service together. We are so blessed and so grateful. So we know that today is a blessed day, as each day is. We recognize that. We celebrate that. And we feel that love and send it out. So for all this and so much more, we are so grateful as we say together, and so it is. Our words of inspiration for today, from Wayne Dyer. Trust and value your own divinity as well as your connection to nature. Seeing God's work everywhere will be your reward. And I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but if I'm not, forgive me, from Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Love is seeing God in the person next to us, and meditation is seeing God within us. And from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, instead of seeing God as afar off, God is within and flowing through everything.
Throughout this entire year, we're going to continue with that theme of seeing the everyday wonder in life. And this month, we are called to go within. We're going to look at the inner life, that piece of us that maybe we hide or restrict from others' view. And so the question I have for you this morning is, can I see God in me? So I'd like you to ask yourself that question right now. Just say it with me. Can I see God in me? I hear a couple yeses. I hear a lot of silence. We are told, taught, encouraged to remember over and over again that Spirit, divine presence, lives in each and every being. And we are taught to look at others and see the God within, regardless of how they're behaving, regardless of what they're saying, regardless of how they look in that moment, to remember that Spirit lives within each and every one of us. And yet I wonder if we are able to always remember the God within each of us. We are one with Spirit, We know that God is all we are, and we are all that God is. On some level, we know this. We talk about it. We say it out loud. But as we go deeper, and as we go within, we may discover that there's a little more work to do. There's a little more work to do within us. Karen Drucker did a beautiful, incredible song years ago called "You Are the Face of God." Every time I hear it, every time I sing it, tears come to my eyes. And I'm usually singing it in some kind of context where there's a group of us and we're looking into the eyes of one another. This week, I encourage you, if you don't have the words to the song and you don't have a place to play it, speak those words to yourself as you look into the mirror. Because you are the face of God. And one of the things that I want us to make sure that we get really solid as we begin this month is to get that part down, that internalized piece of who we are. We have been talked to our entire lives. We have been told we're bad, we're wrong, we're ugly, we're fat, we're too tall, we're too short, we're not behaving appropriately, certain people don't act that way, and you're certain people, on and on and on. I'm going to really get to the root of some of this afternoon. Because all those amazing people who said they loved you, your parents, maybe your teachers, your school principal, your minister, your Sunday school teacher, your friends, your partners, have had things to say about you that weren't positive, that were derogatory, that were possibly defaming. And what we want to do this week is we want to take a lot of time to really look at that and move past that and get rid of those voices. In the book of Ephesians in the New Testament scripture is a scripture that says, you are God's masterpiece. Now, I pulled this off of Google because I can, and it says in fine print there, spiritual inspiration. I couldn't find that exact word in any of the translations of the Bible that I have. What I found was, you are God's handiwork. I think those two words are pretty interchangeable. You are God's handiwork, you are God's masterpiece. So every single human being is a divine creation, made by the Master itself. And we must know this, we must own this, we must live this, we must believe this, because when we don't, we're not only discounting and discrediting who we are discounting and discrediting the Creator. So this is a big piece for us. This is a part that we really need to get. We are pure essence. It is our divine spark. We are here to express spirit freely. How often this past week did you feel less than? Was there a moment when you felt unimportant, unworthy, ashamed? Did you catch yourself using negative language towards yourself because of something you did? It's interesting how this works, because a child is born into this expression of life in perfection, divine perfection. And then all of these wonderful helpers show up to mold it and to shape it and to tell it who it gets to be and how it gets to be. And we get to a point at some point in our lives where we don't even have to call mom or remember what mom said. We've adopted the voice for ourselves. It's now my voice. It's now my words. It's not one of the exes or some school teacher who criticized something I did. I don't even have to go back to them. I brought it with me. And I think we all do that, and I think this is a good place for us to begin this week, is to look at that. Every single child is born on this planet knowing its own truth. And sometimes we try to convince it that that's not true. Oprah Winfrey said it really well. She said, "Don't get confused with what people say you are, with who you know you are. Don't get confused with what people say you are with who you know you are." There's that part of you that every time something happened, that every time one of these voices showed up and tried to tell you something, there was a part of you that was in resistance, right? You kind of fought it for a minute until so many voices over and over again started to convince you that maybe that wasn't the truth. From our very early moments here on planet Earth, we were told how to dress, how to talk, how to sit. I was told not to fidget. Don't fidget. You know what? I think I'd be thinner if I had fidgeted more. Mom wanted me to sit still. I don't know why. My brother sat still a lot. He'd doze off in church. You know what happened to him? He got poked with a safety pin. Well, where's the balance? That was a confusing message for me. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be? So I want to look at this week, and I want to talk about ways that we can let these voices become silent so that we can just show up in that amazing greatness of who we are. Alan Watts said, "To know that you are God is another way of saying you feel completely one with this universe. You belong here. We belong here." This is something we really want to pay attention to. When we love ourselves for who we really are, we automatically elevate our spiritual consciousness. And when we elevate our spiritual consciousness, we can help the rest of the world. And when we don't, we can't. What would it take for you to discount and discredit the many messages that came your way in your life? What would it take for you to be truly authentic, regardless of what anybody said about you? Sarah Von Brethnick said, "The authentic self is soul made visible." Our soul is authentic. We may have been taught to behave a certain way, but it's not who we are. So let's look at this. What can we do here? Quite a number of years ago, I became an interpreter for the hearing impaired. I was thrilled with the work I was doing. How this happened was I was attending church services at the church where my parents had always gone, where I'd gone since I was born. And one evening, this couple showed up, John and Nora. Now, Nora had not been able to hear since the day she was born, but John had an illness when he was a young child, so he had been able to hear for a time. They came into a room. They asked a bunch of us to get together. They wanted to talk to us, and John was able to enunciate very, very well. And he said to us, "I want to teach you sign language so that you can interpret for me and my wife and any of our friends who come to church what's being spoken on Sunday." I was ecstatic. And I fell in love with the language. And I not only took the class that John offered us, but I went to the Deaf and Blind School in Colorado Springs, and I took ASL, which is American Sign Language 1, 2, and 3, so that I could become an interpreter. Because I felt that this was my niche. This was a place where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be helping these people. And I was learning about a culture that I didn't even know existed that was right here in front of me. Because an individual who cannot hear from birth has challenges the rest of us do not have in just our normal development. And John and Nora had 2 children who could hear. And I got to hear the story of how these 2 children just were pulled out of the home at a specific age and sent to live someplace else with hearing people, with a hearing family, so they could learn to enunciate better, so they could learn to speak. It was unbelievable, and it was very awakening for me. And so what would happen is, on a Sunday, there was this big, huge, we were in this huge building. There was this big, huge stage over here, and the minister was up here front and center, and all the people were over here. And down off to the side, where maybe nobody would notice, is where we had a group of hearing impaired. And the 4 or 5 of us who took the class would take turns standing in front of them, and we would interpret what we heard the minister say. Until one day, when someone in the church remembered that there's a scripture in the Bible, or 2, or whatever, that make mention to the fact that women are to be silent in the church. That a woman in that particular philosophy did not have the right to stand in front of anyone and speak in any way in a gathering. The question came up, how do we know what she's saying? She could be telling them something, which I hadn't even thought of that, what a great idea. But she could be telling them something that he's not even speaking from the platform. How do we know? And so within just a short time, I was no longer serving in that role at that church. And it was a very short time after that when I was no longer in the building. And I had to take a minute. I had to take a minute and not do the religion thing for a while because I had to figure out, what does this mean? It wasn't the first time I had been discounted or discredited because I was female. I didn't know it then, but it wasn't going to be the last time either. Imagine the voices that I've been able to shut up that brought me here to this place. When I first walked into a Center for Spiritual Living and found out that women were ministers and women were practitioners and women were teachers and adult men came to classes and sat with women, and it was absolutely not only okay, but that's what God wanted. Oh my gosh, my world blew up. So I just ask you, there are some pretty deep-seated voices, and we're still carrying along. And sometimes, every now and then, one of them shows up again. One of the ones I thought that I worked through, that I've canceled out, that I put duct tape over its mouth, and it shows right back up in my face. Can I see the God in me? I couldn't then. Absolutely not. Because clearly I was being told that God didn't show up in women. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says, "We believe that spirit is embodied in everyone and that we are all embodiments of the one spirit. There is a supreme need in each one of us to love and be loved. To love and be loved. And if I'm going to love and be loved, I have got to love me first. You have got to love you first. Not just for 5 minutes, not just on Sunday because you went to church. No, all the time, all the time. You have got to learn to be as forgiving of yourself and your behavior and your moods and your acting out as much as you are of anyone else that you love. And if we don't find a way to do that, we are going to be sore pressed to help those on this planet who need to feel love. Because how I walk my talk and how I live my life and how I show up in my demonstration tells everyone else how to treat me, just as it does for you. Just exactly as it does for you. You see, we do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. The healing starts here. It starts right here. My encouragement to you this week is to stop letting others define you. Stop it. And all those dang voices, there's a herd of them in your head. Trust me. If you're over the age of 20, there's a herd of them in your head. And every now and then they start chirping out. You've got to shut them down. You've got to quiet them. They lied to you. Did you know that? They lied to you. All those years ago, when they told me I didn't have the right to stand in front of people and teach the truth, that was a lie. So think about that this week. I want you to really bring this to the foreground and really pay attention. So let's talk about this from a little different perspective. I want to talk about Kai Shapley. Kai Shapley was born into a very religious family in Texas. By the age of 18 months, Kai's mom realized there was something wrong because she wasn't acting like her siblings. You see, Kai was identified male at birth. But by the time she was 18 months old, she wasn't acting like one of her brothers. By the time she was 2 and 3 years old, she was beginning to tell people, I'm a girl. Did I mention they were part of a very religious church? And what we know about some teachings and some philosophies out there is that there's a belief that if this child was identified as male at birth, then that's what this child is. For a while, Kai's mom was beginning to think that maybe this child was gay. What was she going to do? She began to pray for God to take this behavior away from her child. Then she began to punish her. Whenever she started to act like a little girl or tell people she was a little girl, she'd put her in timeout. She confessed that there's even times when she would spank her for this behavior. By the time Kai was 3.5 years old, she would come dancing into the room with flowing scarves and colorful whatever, and she'd say, "You know I'm a girl, right, Mom? You know I'm a girl, right?" And her mother was beside herself. At the age of 4, Kai was overheard praying to God that she go live with Jesus. And when asked about this, she said, if I can't be who I am, which is a girl, I can't be here. And her mother began to realize there was more to the situation than she understood, and something needed to shift. She was ridiculed at school. She was restricted from using the girls' bathroom. She was criticized at church. Some friends weren't allowed to play with her anymore. Can you imagine the voices that this child is having to quiet within her? This past December, Kai celebrated her 11th birthday. Her family has become incredibly supportive of her. There's been a lot of information nationally about this family and the work that they're doing to support their little girl. I just want you to think about for a moment the voices that have tried to tell you you can't express yourself the way you know is right and true for you. I just want you to think about what are the things that you need to do to quiet this chatter once and for all, so that you can see the God within you. Because I absolutely see God in this adorable little girl. I watched a video of her. She's incredible. And she is so strong-willed and so knowing of who she is, but still, sometimes those negative voices hang on to us, and it's tough to let go. By the way, I don't know how recent it is, but recent studies show that there are 4 aspects that define gender. 4. We're not doing anyone any justice when a child is born if we look at one aspect and decide the future of that child. But what I do know is that there is much work to do. There is much shifting and changing and support and love that needs to happen on this planet right here and right now. And the only way I can bring it forth is if I am in love with me. The only way you can support it is if you got your stuff together, you know who you are, and you're showing up in your authentic self, and then that's how we help the rest of the planet. Martha Graham says this: there is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. You're here for a reason. You're here on purpose. We use the terminology a lot that we are called. We are called. I want you to understand today, it's more than that. There is a demand. There are people and children hurting and dying because they don't believe that they're loved, and they don't believe that they're perfect, and they don't believe they're okay. We have got to take care of this being so that we can reach out and support them. We need to take a stand for all of the diverse expressions of spirit, for all of the unique expressions, for everyone who's showing up in their authentic way. Sometimes it might not be more than just a smile or a nod. at someone who isn't quite dressed the way you might have expected at that moment in time, or isn't acting quite like you think they should. I waved at an individual not too long ago who was dancing around the bus stop, the bench thing, and just dancing, crazy dancing. And I rolled my window down and waved because I thought screaming out the window probably wasn't going to be very helpful. We are here to support all of them, at all of them. Holmes says this, in moments of real inspiration, we understand, at least to some degree, that God is all. That which has within itself is all that really is. The life in everything and the love through everything. You are the life and you are the love. You are the life and you are the love. So come up with a little ritual this week. I practiced one a couple years back. I had some dishes that were kind of ratty. They weren't nice enough to give to the ark. And I wanted to get rid of them. And I sat with them for a while on my counter trying to decide what would be a really positive thing for me to do with these nasty-looking dishes. And so I put, now I didn't have, they were dark colored so I couldn't write on them, but I put little stickers on all over them with all of these negative words that I had been told my whole life. Crammed them all over the dishes. I mean, little pieces of tape all over the place that said unworthy and not good enough and not bright enough and not pretty enough and my nose is too big. I mean, all those, there's a bunch of them. And then I went out to my garage and I opened up my trash bin and I'd pick them up one plate at a time and I would create affirmations that discounted all the words on the plates. And then I threw them into the trash bin. Oh my gosh, that felt good. I did discover right away that I needed to have some kind of protective something on my face because sometimes it goes into the trash bin and some pieces of it come back out. So if you try that, make sure you put on a little protective eyewear. Something even more simple than that, blow up a balloon, tie a knot in it, get a magic marker, write the words on the balloon. If you fill up the balloon and you have more words, get another one. And put the words on it. Do the affirmations. Release these languages, release these toxic statements that have been said about you, and then pop the balloon. Create a ritual, because what ritual does for us is it moves the heart and the mind together into the next expression. And it is so good at helping us release whatever it is we felt, whatever it is we thought was going on. This is your action item for this week, is to create a ritual. If you can't stand in front of the mirror and say clearly, without a doubt, every minute of every day, I can see the God in me, then pick up your calendar or your phone, wherever your calendar lives, pick a date, and start doing the work so that by the time you get to that date, it's better. You're not bringing those voices forth so much anymore. Can you see the God in you? Let's work on that this week and support everyone around us in the same. Let's go within. Practitioners, please stand. So as we simply let go of this message right here and right now, and as we simply allow this space and this time to be the perfection that it has been, we recognize and know that God is here. We know that there is a presence, a divine being that created each and every one of us in its own likeness, so that we could be right here with our feet planted on this earth, demonstrating this love, this goodness, this light, that is spirit within each and every one of us. How perfect this is. How wonderful it is to know that it's not too late, that we can let it go. The restrictions, the limitations, the thoughts, the ideas, the stories that were never ours to begin with. And so right here and right now, I just know that divine perfection surrounds each and every one of us, permeates all life, supporting us in creating a better world for all people everywhere. All people. I bless everyone that is here today. I bless everyone who views this video on the virtual networks that we have. I bless all people outside of this who are in the hills and the mountains and who are spending their time in their connection with Spirit in their own way. All are blessed and all are perfect. And this week I know that each and every one of us has the opportunity to fall more and more in love with self, recognizing the God within. And so we just release these words, turning this over to the law of mind, knowing that Spirit is here with us always and always listening and always open to hold us and lift us up to a higher vibration, and it's good and it's perfect and it's all God. We let this go and we let it be. And together we say, and so it is.
You and me, we once believed it was a good thing, yeah. Then one by one, we came undone, like we dimmed the sun. And I wanna see that now isn't how we wanna be. Oh, it's all on the table. We are unshakable, sometimes breakable, but always, we are always indestructible. Us and them take the attention. Well, we lost direction. Oh, yeah. And we've got a hold on what we think we know, but still don't get too close. Oh, well, I wanna see that now isn't how we wanna be. Oh, it's all on the table. We are unshakable. Sometimes we are breakable, but always, we are always indestructible. Rattle the walls, lean in and fall. Count to 10 and try again. I wanna see that now isn't how indestructible. Sometimes we feel breakable, but we know we are always indestructible. Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm Reverend Jen Wild, Senior Minister for New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living. New Dawn Center is a global community, and we welcome all people, all paths, all ways of thinking, all philosophies. So know that you are welcome here, and thank you for joining our online community.